That's why no. From where? Okay. All right. Hopefully we got sound. Let's see here. I've got. Oh, the music was fine. Kevin is mute. Try again. Keep listening. Uh she's talking about the introduction music. Yes, the highly favored. Let's see what happens here. Uh, keep listening, I just said. We can hear you now. Woohoo! I I got yeah. Thanks, Ian. Thanks. I don't know what I would do without your observations. Oh, oh, he's linked. Yes, last week, I forgot to turn on the microphone after I had everything set up, and then I went and sat down and I had my pack, and I forgot to turn the pack on, and so there was no sound until Myrna. She texts me, and I'm like, oh, there's no sound. Isn't it a great day? Last week we couldn't get up we couldn't even move. We were stuck in our driveway, stuck. It took us, let's see, they finally got was it Wednesday night? Thursday night? When they finally got to our streets. Otherwise, if I didn't have a 4x4 truck, we would have been stuck for 4 days. But we are all out now. The roads are clear. Just in 1 week, we went from like minus 30 to now it's going to be like, what, plus 5 or 6 today. It's awesome. And I don't know about you, but my phone woke me up at an hour early this morning because my phone doesn't know it's in Saskatchewan for some reason. It does now. I got the time all set. I can't remember when I got this phone. I got this phone and gave my old phone to my daughter. Because she needed something desperately, and I must not have set it up right. Anyways, we're all here, and I'm glad you're here with us this morning. If you're online, welcome. Boy, just in 1 week, we're in our house. Now we're here live. I'm thankful for all of those of you here with us. Those of you that couldn't make it this morning, well, welcome. Even Kirk and Sue, I know that you're probably listening wherever you are. I know, so just welcome this morning. I want to just say that it's just awesome. Just an awesome feeling just to know that you're with me on this journey in grace. We're in the season of Lent. And for some of us, I didn't know what Lent was for most of my growing up in my Christian life years until I was a pastor in Prince Albert, and I was part of the association, the Ministers Association, and they decided to have Lenten lunches, start Lenten lunches every year. And then all the churches, we would take part, and one church would provide food, the other church would provide music and a speaker. That's when I first learned about Lent and what Lent was. And so I understand that there's lots of people in evangelical communities that don't understand Lent, or have you never thought about Lent? I've always thought Lent was just a Catholic thing, and I just kind of brushed it off. But Lent is the 6 weeks leading up to Easter Sunday, which I call Resurrection Sunday. It's a time to pause and to take some time to reflect on the life and the work and the ministry of Jesus, his suffering, his death, and of course his resurrection. And so Lent is a time to reflect of the interconnected life between you and Christ. When I say interconnected, you and Jesus are joined together. You're joined at the hip. You're connected together. And so it's this time we get to think about this interconnection between Christ and myself. Paul says, for me to live is Christ, to die is gain. And so we live with Christ in us. That's the mystery. The mystery is Christ in you, the hope of glory. And so as I was thinking about this, I've entitled this message, You Are Called, but You Have to Walk in Your Calling. You are called, but you have to walk in your calling. There's something that you have to do, and it's not a works thing. We don't go out by works. We actually walk by faith. We walk through grace. But there's something we get to do, and we get to walk with Christ. And so the cross is this place. When we think of the cross, and we're thinking of Lent, and we're thinking of Resurrection Sunday coming up, the cross is a place of a connection between heaven and earth. Jesus, both God and man, this place where heaven and earth intersect. And there's this intersection between humanity and divinity, God and man, you and Christ. And so the cross is our reference point to the exchange life we have in Christ. I mean, the cross is so important. It is why we believe what we believe today. Jesus came, He died, He rose again. If that is not true, then everything we believe is in vain. And Paul, the Apostle Paul, says so himself. And I love the Apostle Paul because, the Apostle Paul lived at the time that Jesus lived. And if there was anybody that wanted to find fault with Christianity and to prove Christianity false, it was the Apostle Paul. He persecuted Christians, and yet it's the same Apostle Paul that gets converted because he cannot find any fault or any false teaching or any falsities about Christ, that Jesus died and Jesus did rise from the dead. If Paul ever considered even once that this was a false thing, that it was a trick of some sort, that the disciples went and took his body and hid it someplace and that Jesus was still dead, well, Paul would never have converted to Christianity. But no, the Apostle Paul, after persecuting Christians, after trying to disprove the gospel, after trying to disprove Christ, he himself begins to become a believer. He becomes a believer. He's converted and starts preaching the message of grace. And so the cross is our reference point to the exchange life that we have in Christ. When I say exchange life, I stole this from Steve McVeigh. It's where I first heard it, the exchange life. And it's this: Christ died and we have life. Isn't that good? Christ died so that we could have life. He became sin so that we have His righteousness. He took our sickness and exchanged it for His health. Jesus took our shame and gave us approval. He became poor so that we can become rich. Because of Jesus and the cross, we get to live free from the burden and the enslavement that was under the law, and we get to live in grace. Isn't that good? We get to live in grace. And so today I want us to take some time to reflect on being chosen and called by God. Not only are you called, you are chosen. You've been chosen by God. You are called by God. Even if you don't yet believe, and I know everybody here in this room believes, but if you're listening online, even if you don't yet believe, or you're just kind of coming into this wondering about Christianity, wondering about Jesus, even if you don't believe in Jesus as your Savior, I want you to know today that you are called and you are chosen even before you believe today. There's a calling on your life. You have a calling on your life. I was thinking about this as I was writing my message out, and I was thinking about times when I was younger. I'm sure that we've all played games when we were younger. Have you ever played games where there's a whole bunch of you, maybe you're going out and playing baseball, and there's a whole bunch of you that gather at the park, and you pick two captains, and those two captains have to pick a team. Does anybody ever did that? Yeah, you've done that. I have to pick my team, right? Or maybe at camp or at school, you've had to pick your team, right? And the rest of the group, they stood just in a group until their name was called and they were chosen to be on a team. I don't know about you, but I definitely have a little bit of pride when it comes to that. I do not want to be picked last, right? I remember a few years ago, and those of you that don't watch NHL, that's okay, but there was the All-Star game, and they had captains, and they had to pick their teams, and the last person there was a guy by the name of Phil Kessel. Now, Phil Kessel was an All-Star. These guys are all All-Stars. He's the last one picked. What they didn't know, is they didn't tell him, is that the last guy chosen actually got a car. But which was great. But you want to be picked. You don't want to be picked last. Your pride, my pride. Then Phil Kessel goes out and becomes he won the best overall player in the game that year. And I think it's funny that the next year, Alexander Ovechkin, who is like definitely an all-star, he brings signs. So he had a family. We didn't know this at the time, but he brought these signs. Pick me last. I want a car. Pick last. I want to be picked last. And they would interview him. He's like, I want to be picked last. Please pick me last. And what they didn't know is that he had encountered a family that needed a car. They were going through some medical history. And so he went to the All-Star game, said, please pick me last. I want the car. I need a car. Pick me last, because he was going to give it to this family. And when the manufacturer found out, they gave a car to this family anyways. But pick me last. I never wanted to be picked last. There was this pride in me that I just didn't want to be picked last. When my name was called, and normally, I was always good at sports. I was never the best, and I was never the worst. I was always near middle to the top. So my name was never usually picked last. But when my name was called and I was chosen, I was like, oh, thank God I'm not last. Oh, I wonder who the poor... I know, Michael, I'm sorry. You were picked last, weren't you? No. No. Anyways, I didn't like to be picked last. I was chosen. I was placed on a team. Can I tell you a little secret this morning? Your name has already been called. You've been chosen for a team. You've been chosen for Team Jesus already. The only thing that you have to do, when my name was chosen out of that group, the one thing I had to do was I had to walk out of that group and go to my team. Listen, this morning, you have been called, you have been chosen. The only thing left for you to do is walk out of that group and step over to you where your captain is, Captain Jesus, and say, I'm on this team. I've been chosen. I'm on his team. And here's another truth. I just want to... sound is good. Good. Here's another truth. When Jesus calls you, he also empowers you. There's this little verse. I didn't write it down, but it just came to me right now. It's in Luke chapter 9, I think. Well, actually, there's 9 or 10. But anyways, in chapter 9, verses 1 and 2, And Jesus, this is about Jesus calling the 12, and he says this, and he called the 12 together. Those 12 were chosen by Jesus. And in fact, there's a whole movie series out now called The Chosen. They're chosen. And he gave them power and authority over all demons and to heal diseases. And he sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to perform healing. Not only are you called and chosen, but who Jesus calls and who he has chosen, he's also empowered. You are empowered by your captain, Jesus. You can do the things Jesus tells you can do. And so he's empowered you. But there's this little thing. It takes faith to step out and be everything God has called you to be. Now, there's two little things here I want to show you. There's two things that are needed for you and me to be everything God has called us to be. Number one, we need a little bit of faith. I love how it's not even our faith, but it's God's faith. I put my faith in his faith. You know I can't do anything, but I know he can. So I put my faith in his faith. I know that I can't heal the sick, but I know Jesus can. So I put my faith in his faith, and he heals the sick. So it is this quiet confidence that we have in Christ, right? faith is the quiet confidence that we have in Christ that He is with us, He has chosen us, and He will do everything possible to support us in our calling. So we need faith. The second thing is we need to step out and do. The statement I made was, it takes faith to step out and be everything God has called you to be. My question is, do you want to be everything God has called you to be? You can. And we have this choice that you don't have to either. That's the reality. But I have chosen that I want to step out and be everything that God has called me to be. So it takes faith in His faith, faith that I've been called, faith that I've been chosen, and then there's this little thing that I have to do. Remember I said we're interconnected with Christ. There's this partnership between you and Jesus, between me and God. God has already fulfilled His part. My part, and it's not works, it is just to step out in the grace that He's already given me. He's already provided for me. You can be called and you can be chosen, but there comes a time when we have to stop talking about, oh, I know this calling of God is on my life. I know I've been chosen. I've got these desires in my heart that God has for me. And we sit back and we talk about it and we think about it, but we don't do anything about it. And there comes a time when we have to stop talking about it and actually begin to do what God has called us to do. When in Luke chapter 9, when Jesus calls His 12, and then He sends them out to do what He had called them to do. In fact, in Luke chapter 10, there's even more of them. In Luke chapter 10, He says, now after this, the Lord appointed 70 others and sent them out in pairs ahead of Him to every city and place where He Himself was going to come. And He said to them, the harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into the harvest. This partnership. Jesus said, hey, I'm empowering you to do these things, but I can't make you do it. You have to make the choice for yourself that I believe in Christ. I believe in His faith. I choose now to step out and do what God has called me to do. Does that make sense? Can I get an amen? A little bit. Now, and I'm talking as much about me today as I am about everybody else. And what God has chosen me to do, God has put a calling on my life. So the question is, if you have a calling on your life, you've been chosen, you know that God's going to support you no matter what. He's your captain. What's stopping you? What's stopping me? What's stopping us from being everything God has called us to be? Well, what's stopping you from being everything that God has called you to be? And there's probably many excuses, but I want to tackle 3 this morning. Number 1. Oh, we're just so comfortable where we are. Oh, I'm comfortable. I don't have to, I'm making enough money. My house is, mortgage is being paid or it's paid for. And I've got heat and I've got a vehicle. I've got friends. I'm really comfortable being just where I am. I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I know that's a whole thing about most of us. Yes, Elijah. That's an excuse from the Bible too. Yes, yes. I was going to pan the camera around because some people said to me, Kevin, who's this Elijah character? But then I realized I get your whole family in there because people think, who's Elijah? How does he come up with these things? You're right. So we are comfortable. We don't want to get out of our comfort zone. So that's the first excuse. I'm comfortable right where I am. I don't really feel like I want to do anything else. The second excuse is, well, who am I? Who am I to do this? I'm just Kevin Shea, or I'm just this person. Who am I? And we think lowly of ourselves and the abilities that we have. not recognizing it's not about our abilities, or it's not about us anyway. It's all about Jesus. We have this excuse, oh, there's somebody way better that can do this than me. There's somebody else, somebody's more gifted, somebody's more qualified, somebody else can do this. Who am I? And the last one is fear. It's what are others going to think or say if I actually step out and do this? Because sometimes when we step out and do what God's called us to do, there is opposition. I never really understood that when I first got into the grace message back in 2006. I never expected the opposition. And now I just expect it. But when I first got into it, and I was so excited about it, that I absolutely thought every Christian would want to know this. They would want to know that some words translated in our English Bible from Hebrew and Greek don't mean what we thought they said, that God is better than we thought, and that there's more grace given, and that we don't have to fear. Boy, was I surprised at the opposition at first, and especially in 2008 to 2011 or 12, that just came after me. I was like, whoa. And so fear, what are others going to think or say? And I want you to know this isn't new. These are the same excuses that Moses had. Moses, the great man who led Israel out of Egypt into the promised land, who was the mediator of the very first covenant between Israel and God did all these powerful things. Listen, I'm going to read you this story. It's in Exodus chapter 3. I'm going to read verses 7 to 14, and I chose this morning to read it out of the New Living Translation. It says this, "Then the Lord told Moses, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt." Oh, I think Moses would be saying, great, God, you've come down to rescue them. He didn't listen to the rest of the sentence yet. And lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey, where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, and Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. Look, the cry of the people Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go. I'm sure a lot of us, God, yes, you're going to do this. Oh, God, I can't wait to see you do this. And then God saying, now go. You go. Uh-oh. You go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. Wait, God, you just said you were going to do that. Oh, yes, I am going to do it. But I am partnering with humanity, and I'm specifically calling and choosing you, Moses, to partner with me to go and free Israel from Egypt. That's the same message God has for you and me today. I am partnering with you, but I want you to go and lead people into freedom, out of Egypt into freedom, out of religion into freedom. So Moses protested. But Moses protested to God. Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? God answered, I will be with you. And this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. But Moses protested again. If I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? I never thought about that before, because Israel had been in slavery and been in Egypt for 400 years. And they're like, who's the name of our God? What is his name? They'd forgotten who Yahweh, Jehovah was. And then he said, and Moses says, then what should I tell them? God replied to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent you. Well, that's pretty bold. It's hard to imagine that Moses, the man that went face to face with Pharaoh and with Pharaoh's wizards, when Pharaoh's wizards came and threw down their staffs and turned into snakes. Well, Moses threw down his, and his turned into a snake, and then his ate the other snakes. I always wondered. I wonder if when Moses picked up that snake and it turned back into a staff, if it was a little thicker because there was 2 more snakes in that staff. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that Moses, the man who went face to face with Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," the man who parted the waters for Israel to cross, the man who was face to face with God, Moses has become, the most influential, one of the most influential men in the history of Israel and in the history of our Bible. He was a man mightily used by God. It is this same man who at the very beginning shows his humanness when God first called him and told him he was chosen. Moses was very comfortable where he was. Remember? Moses grew up in the palace of Pharaoh. Moses all of a sudden has compassion for Israel, and he kills one of the Egyptian soldiers. And he's forced to flee Egypt because of his compassion for Israel, because he knows that he is Jewish. And as he flees, he comes to this place and he gets married. He has children. He's a shepherd. He has flocks. He's comfortable living where he is. He's not in the spotlight anymore. He's not leading the armies of Pharaoh out into war. He's just comfortable. Oh, God, I'm glad I'm not over there anymore. That was hard. Here, I can rest and I'm comfortable. And God says, "Oh, Moses, I've chosen you." And Moses is like, "God, I'm pretty comfortable right where I am. I have a wife. I have children. My needs are all met. I've got land. Send somebody else." And he makes all these excuses. Can you see why Moses might not have wanted to go? Or the other reason is that I'm sending you back to Egypt, to Pharaoh, who, by the way, wants to kill you. You don't have a good reputation over there. And God says, "I've chosen you." Moses knows that if he goes, there's a good possibility that he won't come back because he's going to be executed. His wife will be a widow. His children will be fatherless. But God says, "I will be with you, and I'm going to bring you back to this mountain." There's this promise. And what would have happened if Moses didn't go? Well, I'm sure God would have led Israel out of Egypt. But Moses would have missed out on the amazing opportunity and blessing of being the guy. Being the one that God chose to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. He would have missed seeing the supernatural power of God flow through him. By staying in the comfort zone, there's so much in life that we miss. Life is more than just being comfortable until we die. There's an excitement to life that we don't want to miss out on. And we have this excitement in Christ. We get to see, the lame walk and miracles and signs and wonders and healings. When we stay in our comfort zone, we miss the excitement of seeing miracles happen. We miss the awe of seeing people's lives changed and transformed from Egypt to the promised land. And I know that all of us here, especially in this room and most of you online today, we love seeing God do amazing things. But it all begins with getting out of our comfortable place. And that feels a little bit nervous. And I think we should be. I like when the Apostle Paul says, I think it's to the Corinthians, "I came to you in fear and trembling." He was afraid, but he knew God had sent him. And there was this nervousness in Paul in coming. And we have to get out of that comfort zone. Paul was outside of his comfortable place. He was a little bit nervous. But we know this has to be God, because I can't do this on my own. Moses tried to use the excuse. He's like, "Okay, God, I'm very comfortable." God says, "Oh, well, you're going to miss out." But he says, "Okay, God, well, who am I? There's other people better than I can't even speak. Don't worry, I got your brother Aaron coming. He's got you covered. You know. And God, there are better people to do the job. I was a prince in Egypt, but that's not who I am anymore. I'm just a shepherd. Have you ever used that excuse? I'm nobody. There's other people that are better at this than I am. There's nothing special about me. Others would be better at this. They are more gifted, more qualified. Look at that person over there. My goodness, that person's got it all together. I'm a mess. God says, I've called you. I've chosen you. I know I've done that. And here's what the Holy Spirit dropped into my spirit as I was thinking about this. When I think I'm not good enough, or when I think I'm not the right person, I am showing that I don't have confidence in God. Because it's not about me anyways. It's not about what I'm gifted to do and my abilities. The gifts and callings of God are irrevocable, yes, but it's not about you. And so when I say to God, who am I? That person's better. It's showing that I don't have my confidence in God. Of course you can't do it. If you could, you wouldn't need faith. You wouldn't need God. If you could do it, you wouldn't need God. You wouldn't need faith. So of course you can't do it. Of course you don't have confidence that you can do it. You're not supposed to have confidence that you can do this. But you do. But do you have confidence that God will do it? And God wants to use you to set people free. God is using you to see miracles happen. It's God, not you anyways. It's God using you despite you. Isn't that good news? Man, there's so many stories of people who are used of God despite themselves. You can even just go through the Bible. The faith chapter. I know we don't even have time to look at all this, but the faith chapter, let's see here. Let's see. By faith, Noah. Oh, Noah. Noah's the guy that, got drunk a little bit later and somebody looked on him shamefully and that he didn't do some good things. By faith, Abraham. Well, Abraham was a liar, lied about his wife being his wife, did some, things. And it says by faith, Jacob. How about by faith, Sarah? Well, Sarah heard what God said and then she laughed about it. But, all these people God used despite them. So, my confidence is not in myself. My confidence is in God. I think I used this verse last week. David writes, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but I will trust in the name of the Lord. And God didn't listen to Moses' excuse either. He said, I will be with you. And the promise of God is, He will be with you. The beautiful thing about being interconnected with God is that God has chosen to work with you, through you, in a partnership with you. Christ in me, you in Christ. There's this beautiful connection that we have with God. And God living through your life is a testimony to the world around you. I want to clarify. God working in your life isn't necessarily a testimony to the whole world, but it's a testimony to the world around you, the people that you know, the people that you connect with every day. And they're like, wow, man, God's doing some amazing things in you. Yes, because it's God and not me. It's a testimony in your life. God is in us. That is our testimony. We're not doing this life by ourselves. We have the God of the universe living this life in us, through us, and what an awesome thing. So the third thing is, the first thing is I'm pretty comfortable. Second thing is, who am I? Last thing is, I'm terrified. Fear. I imagine that Moses was still pretty scared the first time he met Pharaoh. But he had this quiet confidence that he was called, he was chosen, and God would not let him down. See, when we know who our God is, we don't have to fear. Can I say that again? When you know who your God is, you don't have to fear. I can't imagine anything better than watching you all be and becoming everything God has called you to be and chosen you to be. That's why I do what I do. Because I just want to walk this life with you, and I want to see you be everything God has called you to be. God has a calling on your life. God has chosen you. Not only has He chosen you, but He's empowered you to fulfill all of your calling. So, I'd like to encourage you today. For some of you, it's time. Some of you know that calling of God that's been in your life. You know you've been chosen. And listen, if you are breathing today, still alive on this earth, you still have a calling on your life. You've still been chosen in this life. And so for some of us, it's time to step out, to break that barrier of being comfortable, and break that barrier of who am I, and break that barrier of fear, and to begin to walk in our callings. It's time to, for some of us, to be a little uncomfortable. Because when we step out, that's not always the most comfortable place to be. There's a little bit of fear and trembling, saying, oh God, I can't do this. You've called me, you've chosen me, so God, I'm trusting you. My faith is in you. And I'm going to step out believing that you are with me every day, all of the way. And when we step out, God steps out with us. Remember, Peter in the boat. The waves come. And there's Jesus walking on the water. Peter says, hey, Jesus, if that's really you, tell me to come out. Oh, come on out, Peter. He starts walking out. All of a sudden, he gets a little uncomfortable. He gets a little nervous. And he begins to sink. And he has to refocus his eyes on Christ and remember that he can't walk on the water anyways. He can only do it with Christ. And Jesus takes his hand and lifts him out of the water. And together, they walk back to the boat. Yeah, that's us. Step out. It's a little uncomfortable out there. It's a little nerve-wracking. But Jesus is with you, taking every step with you. See, when we step out, God steps out with us, and we will see impossible things. Impossible things. That's what I want. Amen? Do you want to see impossible things this morning? That's so good. We're gonna just transition here. Oh, I should let you know. Let's see here. You are highly favored, and if you want to support Grace Life Center, you can do that through e-transfer. You can do that at gracelifestoon@gmail.com. It's on your screen right now. We want to thank each and every one of you for all your donations and all your giving in the past, and we just know that God is doing good things in 2024 as well. And you will get a tax-deductible receipt for the year 2024 in January or February next year for your givings. Thank you so much. Also, it might be a Bible study Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock on Zoom. Last week we talked about vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. What does that really mean? Boy, that was a good one. I should have recorded it for you because it was a great, great little time together. We are going to just transition here into we're going to sing together.